Hey my sweethearts, welcome back to my channel. I hope you and yours are doing great today. If it's your first time being here, welcome. My name is Kiki and I love to talk about fragrances within my collection and also share some fragrance education. Today's video is going to be a fun one because I will be sharing some fragrances I recently let go of from my collection. I wasn't gravitating towards them. You know, they had served their purpose and it was time to say adios. If you'd like to know what these fragrances are, why don't you get settled, get hydrated, and let's get into the video. When making my fragrance choices, I typically look out for three qualities. One, it has to be beast mode. Two, it has to smell good in the air. And three, it has to have some spiciness in its notes. And I thought that this fragrance had those qualities, so I took the plunge. I'm referring to Red Tobacco by Mancera. I have to take a breather. When I tell you that this fragrance took the whole life out of me and whooped my behind, I kid you not. This fragrance is doing the most, okay? It's doing too much. I know I love beast mode fragrances, but this one is on another level. This is beast mode fragrance on steroids. This is the fragrance that Thanos will wear before going on an attack. This fragrance will cause a jailbreak. When you wear this fragrance, it will smell you in another universe. That's how loud this fragrance is. And it's different when a fragrance is loud. I mean, there's so many, popular niche fragrances that are, in quote, loud. But this was loud and aggressive and abrasive. There's something very pungent that I could smell. And to me, to my nose, it felt like the notes didn't really mesh. And maybe the notes are not at its ripe form. Like the apples smelled like unripe green apples. That sharp quality from that sort of apple came through. The tobacco here just didn't smell fresh. It was almost like wet. The patchouli felt dry. Just all of those things together just gave me the worst feeling when I smelled it. It was too much. That's just what I kept saying in my head. I thought I was doing a lot by spraying like 2, so I cut it down to 1 spray. Still, that just didn't help it. Now, what broke everything that just made me take the decision to declutter was one day I did like literally half a spray, was going on an errand, and then a lady walked into the elevator and you could see her face. Oh my gosh, I would never forget it. The way she looked and like the way her face just got squeezed up, I was like, yeah. And she walked right out. I was like, no, I can't have people reacting to me this way. That just made me get rid of the fragrance. I do not miss it. I do miss that note family. That's tobacco, apple, and spicy notes. So I'm thinking I'll probably get an alternative that is a bit sweeter and softer. Like I've heard a lot of great things about Triumph of Bacchus by Argos. I definitely will check this out. Would I ever get Red Tobacco ever again in my collection? Absolutely not. I don't know how you all wear that fragrance. Kudos to you, but for me, it's adios, goodbye, never again. Next is Interlude Woman. This is one of the most complex fragrances that I've had in my collection because I had a love-hate relationship with this one. Now, if I ever do a top 5 most complimented fragrances from my collection, Interlude Woman would be top 3 because of how many compliments I got whenever I wore that fragrance. There is no time I wore Interlude Woman without getting multiple compliments from any and every person. I've worn this to Saks, I got compliments. I wore this to, was it Nordstrom? I got compliments. I've been at church, got compliments everywhere. In fact, one time, a beautiful lady stopped me, and unfortunately, I couldn't speak her language, and we had to get a translator to tell her the name of the fragrance I was wearing. That's how good people love this fragrance on me, but I just couldn't stomach it. There's something about this fragrance that just made me want to gag. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I tried to wear this in colder months. I just couldn't take it. In warmer periods, the same thing. There was no time of the year that I could comfortably smell this fragrance and be like, yeah, that's the vibe I want. Never. Yet people love this on me. So I just had to think about my feelings, not that of others, and it just was a blessing for me when I finally sold this fragrance, because I'm like, yeah, I can deal with not getting that much compliments. There's something about the fragrance, I just don't know. So yeah, great fragrance, very potent, smell beautiful in the air to people, spicy as well, but nah, for me, it was a no. I just could not wear this. That it doesn't make sense keeping a fragrance that caused me so much discomfort just so I can please other people. So I'm glad that I got rid of Interlude Woman by Amouage. The next fragrance is a Tribeca by Bond Number 9. Everyone knows this one, and I wanted to get it as well because I heard great things about it. And it's great, but I had to get rid of it because of redundancy. This fragrance reminds me a lot of Baccarat Rouge 540. I am at that stage where I am tired of having fragrances that are similar within my collection. So redundancy, and it was getting boring just smelling the same thing over and over again. Beautiful fragrance, also in the way it performs. I just do not feel that it was necessary keeping that fragrance in my collection. Also, as much as I love Bond Number 9 offerings, I feel the shape of the bottle is a bit awkward to hold. And the color, my bottle just was, peeling off, and the white was getting stained easily from makeup and every other thing. It was just too much to deal with. It was high maintenance. So that was also another reason why I had to let it go from my collection. But if you love, the BR540 DNA, you want to smell something that is slightly creamier in its presence, then you can check that out. But for me, it's a no and not necessary to keep in my collection. The next fragrance I got rid of is Date's Delight by the House of Oud. Y'all, this fragrance called my name because it's like, Kiki, you love gourmand fragrances. Why don't you check this out? I'm like, yes, please. I mean, it has dates, it has sugar, it has vanilla, notes that are music and magic to my ears. So I got this fragrance and it met my expectations, except it performed poorly. I could barely smell this fragrance on my clothes, on my skin after an hour. And this is not just my nose. I asked people to check it out. They couldn't smell anything. Bearing in mind, I got this directly from Max Aroma, so it's 100% authentic, but it was very disappointing the way it performed. And I stand by the conviction that I should not be spending so much money on a fragrance that doesn't perform so well. It just doesn't add up to me. So that factor put me off, and I had to get rid of the fragrance. There's some people who enjoy barely their fragrances. There are definitely people in that category, but not me. So would I ever purchase Date's Delight? Probably if an intense or an extrait version is created, because I've heard that the House of Oud fragrances don't typically last. And now tell me why I want to spend money on a fragrance that doesn't last. I do know that their bottles are stunning, like all hand painted and hand designed pieces of art, but it would be nice if the juices match the fragrance bottle. It would just be amazing. Okay, so yeah, I had to get rid of Date's Delight by the House of Oud because of its performance. The next one is a Chocolate Greedy by Montale. A lot of people said it's an amazing chocolate fragrance. It has some vanilla, it's sweet, and all that good stuff. Gourmand lover here. I picked it up and I was utterly disappointed because to my nose, there is nothing fascinating about that fragrance. It smelled like Cocoa Puffs to me. Now tell me why I want to smell like cereal. Tell me. And the sillage, the projection were just nothing to write home about, nothing special about the fragrance. I have more affordable fragrances that work better, that smell better. So why in the world would I want to keep having that just because it's popular or people say it smells a certain type of way. No hate, but I just didn't enjoy it or find it as a fragrance that I would gravitate towards on any given day. The next fragrance is Bouquet Ideale by Xerjoff. I heard a lot about this fragrance, and it was touted to be a floral heaven, like being in a Middle Eastern floral shop. And I love my Middle Eastern fragrances. I love the Middle East. So I'm like, yeah, sign me up. And I ordered this directly from Xerjoff. I was so disappointed because, first of all, this was heavy on cinnamon. No hate to cinnamon. I love it in my fragrances. It's a spice. But this came off too dry, a cinnamon. And then it had some sweetness at the background that smelled sort of synthetic to my nose. Coupled with the fact that this reminds me a lot of Ragba by Lattafa, which I already have and is more affordable, it didn't make any sense keeping Xerjoff's Bouquet Ideale in my collection. Nothing floral about this fragrance. To me, it's not even a feminine type fragrance. It's more unisex, slightly leaning more masculine as a fragrance. This is not one that I want to wear like to the office or, you know, in an intimate space, because I fear that certain people would not, you know, enjoy this note, and I do not want to make people uncomfortable, okay? Xerjoff is another favorite house of mine, but Bouquet Ideale wasn't what I expected it to be, and it was just pointless having a similar fragrance in my collection. Now, if I was to pair Bouquet Ideale with Ragba, Ragba will win hands down because it lasts much longer and it has a slightly sweeter presence in its dry down. That being said, Bouquet Ideale is loved by so many people, okay? So if you enjoy the cinnamon, nutmeg, spice type vibe in your fragrances, especially during the winter period, definitely check out Bouquet Ideale. Get you a sample. You may enjoy it. But for me, I had to say goodbye. This next fragrance was such a huge disappointment because it was so hyped, and I was really excited about getting a fragrance that will have me smelling like the sexiest woman in the room. I'm talking about Possibilities by La Perla. Y'all, I was told that this fragrance would smell so sexy and enchanting and alluring. The central on this thing, oh my god, so addictive, yada yada yada. And I took the plunge. I got this fragrance. My gosh, this is just another boring rose fragrance with no kick to it. It felt flat. Actually, this reminds me of my grandma's couch, something old. No disrespect to grandma, but why would I want to smell like that? Okay, I have a lot of rose-based fragrances that are ridiculously sexy, that create an impression. La Perla did not do anything like that. Actually, this was one of my fastest declutters because this just did not match the reviews that I got or saw or read about, you know. It's a no for me. I want my fragrance to have an edge to it. I love my fragrances telling a story. I love my fragrances taking me on a ride, because fragrance wearing to me is an experience. So if I'm not getting an experience from it, then what is the point? I'm very grateful to Nordstrom for having a policy of accepting returns, and I gladly send it back. In fact, I wouldn't have been happy reselling this fragrance because I would have had to lie to the buyer about the way I felt about this fragrance, and that's a disservice. I do not like lying. So yeah. But if you love this fragrance, I'm so happy for you. But for me, there is no possibility of me getting this fragrance again. And so there you have it, my list of some fragrances that I recently decluttered. You know how I see it is that fragrance wearing is an art form that needs to be experienced. And so as you are exploring the fragrance world, it's completely fine for you to get rid of items you no longer want and make room for new, amazing fragrances in your collection. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if your fragrances you recently decluttered or are thinking of decluttering. I'm always happy to chat and engage with you here on my channel. Thank you so much for your love and support. Until next time, stay blessed, stay beautiful. You are beautiful.